Okay, welcome to the first video on AutoCAD, and this is for Arch 150 or ID 150, and we're going to talk about the first project. So I'm going to start from scratch. This is a blank drawing. You can see that by it saying that it is drawing number 1. So I haven't even named it yet. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save it as the proper drawing. So I'm going to go to Save As, and I'm going to save it as a drawing, and I'm going to tell it where to go, so to speak. So I want it to go to My Documents, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in my school file for right now. So I'm not going to put it in a folder. I don't have a folder set up for this class yet. So I'm just going to do what I do. So it is Arch, or if you're an ID, it would be ID 150 and F for fall underscore my first initial underscore my last name, if I can spell it. And then underscore, or was it dash? I think it was dash. And then the project. And I'm going to go right into calling this the title block. So I'm going to call it TB 17 by 11. So this would basically be my template. I'm going to set the drawing up exactly the same for everything else. First thing I'm going to do is type in units, or utens, units, and we come up with the units dialog box. So I'm going to change that to architectural. The precision is 1/16 of an inch. And the angle type is decimal degrees, and I am going to change that to 2 decimal places, and we're okay with units. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the grid spacing. So I'm going to type in DS, and if you look down at the command line, there it is right there, DS. Enter, and up comes my drafting settings. I'm going to leave snap off, so any of these settings, they don't really matter because I'm not concerned with grid or snap. I'm more concerned with grid. So what I'm going to do is change this to 1, and it automatically defaults to 1 inch because it understands that the default is by inch. I'm going to turn adaptive grid off, and I'm going to turn display the grid beyond the limits off and say OK. So where are we at right now? This is the limits as they are, and that is a 9 by 12. I can tell because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's 9 high and 12 wide. These are, remember, 1 inch increments, and every 5th line is a major line. And so I know right away what my limits are because I specified that the grid would not be displayed beyond the limits. So I've got to change my limits because we're going to put this on a 17 by 11 sheet of paper. That's what the title block is. So I'm going to type in limits, press enter, and I look down at the command line, and the command line says that the lower left corner is 0 feet 0 inches, comma 0 feet 0 inches, or 0 comma 0. And that is right here. That is 0 comma 0. So I hit enter to accept that default, and I want to change the upper right hand corner of the limits, and I want to change that to 17 comma 11. And there I go. So now this is 15, 16, 17, and this is 10, 11. So I know that it is 17 units by 11 units. So this is basically my sheet of paper. Right now I'm just going to draw a rectangle. I'm on layer 0, and I'm going to go up here to the rectangle. I'm going to invoke that. The first corner it's asking for is going to be 0 comma 0, and enter. And the next corner I'm going to type in as 17 comma 11, just like the limits. Now I'm going to offset this 1/4 of an inch, so I'm going to go over to the Modify tab, and right over here in the corner is Offset, so I picked that. I want to pick the distance through as 1/4 of an inch and hit Enter. I'm going to pick the rectangle and then pull it to the inside, and notice where I'm pulling, I'm all the way on the inside of the square. If I go outside, see it move? Isn't that cool? Alright, so I'm going to pick in here, and now I've got my title block all started. Now, if I were to offset this 2 inches to make my title block, it would offset the entire thing. So offset the distance through, I want to do 2 inches, hit Enter, and I'll show you by picking on this line and pulling it in, and see it pulled it in 2 inches. Now I could do that, and I could do some stuff to fix that, or I can go up to this little button in the Modify tab and hit Explode. So now I've invoked the Explode command, and I select the object that I want to explode, and then I hit Enter to accept that. Now if I look at that object, it's individual pieces. So the outside is still one piece, the inside is individual pieces. I can go back to Offset. It's 2 inches because I used the offset command of 2 inches before. It remembered the distance through. So I accept that by default. I hit Enter. I pick the line that I want to offset, and I pick the side of that line that I want to offset. Now you're probably wondering, why does that little 2-inch symbol not show up? Why are things not showing up that normally show up? Well, I have this little dynamic input turned off. So if I turn dynamic input on, and I can tell it it's on because it's blue, I can go over and go back to offset, invoke that, and there it is. It's showing in the display area, in the working area, what my distance is. So if I accept that default, I pick the object that I want to offset and the side. Now it shows up. It's that dynamic input that shows me on the screen what I am trying to do. So I'm going to escape out of that because I don't want to do that. Right now I am not going to do anything more with the title block. So I am going to save the title block. I'm just going to go up here and hit save. The other way to do that is to type save, and it's going to ask me where I want to do it. Well, I'm just going to save the same things. Yeah, I want to replace it because this is where I want it to be. So I've saved this, and now I've saved the title block. Now I'm going to save as project 1. Although my title block is not done, I can come back and fix it later. So I'm going to save as. Now, without destroying all of this information, all I want to do is save a difference of the project. So I can place the cursor here. I double-clicked inside there, and then I'm going to backspace until I've cleared that, and now I'm going to type in project 1. So now I've got project 1 saved. So this is saved as project 1 now. So now I can draw my plate, which I'm going to say is about there, and then I'm going to start working on my spoon. So there's a line. I drew all the way through. I'm going to use this kind of as my guide. I'm sorry, my fork. I've got a knife and a spoon to draw over here, so I am going to start by drawing a circle. Now, my O-snap is on, so if I get close to the midpoint of a line, it's going to show that orange or green triangle. If I get close to the end point of a line, it's going to show the green square. If I get close to anything perpendicular, it's going to show the perpendicular sign, which is an angle sign, or the intersection. I must have all of those on. So if I want, I can go down here to where it says Object Snap, right click, and look at all of these that have a little blue box around it. So perpendicular, intersection, midpoint, and endpoint have a blue box around it. Now if I go to settings, I can see that those are checked. I'm going to turn intersection off. I'm going to go back OK. So now I'm going to draw again. I'm going to draw that circle. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw it about a ½ inch. Now you can see that I'm moving it and a ½ inch doesn't change. So if I hit enter, what happened? It didn't do it, right? So it looks like I should get a radius of 5/8 if I hit enter. But it doesn't. It does weird stuff. Because I'm looking at the screen. Watch again. Here's my circle. Look at my screen. It says 5/8. You would think that it's blue. That must be the enter. But look down at the command line. It's saying that circle, specify radius of the circle or diameter. Right now I have a diameter of 0 feet 4 9/16 inches. For some reason that is the last circle it was drawn. It was this circle. So it remembers that. So I want it to be a ½ inch. So I'm going to type in a half and enter. And now I have a circle that is 1/2 radius. It's 1 inch in diameter. Now I can pull that out just a little bit and I can see that that is now 1 1/8. I can make that 1 1/4 by typing 1 space 0.25. And now, whoops, 1.25, and there it is. So now my diameter is 1/4. 1 1/4, sorry. So now I'm going to move this circle up just a little. I'm going to grab out here and pull it up, put it right about there. Now I'm going to draw a line, just an arbitrary line across. Doesn't matter. I'm going to draw another line. I just typed L. Now I shift, let me do this again. Line, I'm holding the shift key down and right clicking. Then I lift the shift key up and I go to quadrant. I pick a quadrant. Oh, I got myself out. Line, enter, shift right click, pick quadrant, pick the quadrant of the circle and come up. And do it again. Line, enter, shift, right click, go to quadrant, pick the quadrant and go up. Now I can trim. TR, enter, and I'm going to select all cutting edges as trim objects, so I'm just going to hit enter. Now I can just go through and select all of those things. Now I'm going to copy this over by 1/8 of an inch. There you go. And I'm going to copy this over by 1/8 of an inch. Now I can copy, pick this object, hit enter to select that object, and look, here's my base point. So I can now just copy all the way over. So again, copy, CO, enter. Select this object, accept that selection set. Here is my first base point, and there is my second base point or second point. And then again, and again. Okay, so what do I have? I'm going to bring this down here. so we can see what's going on. Now I'm going to get rid of this line. I don't need it anymore. Let's see if what I did made sense. Oops. Well, that isn't going to work. Look, I cheated. Doesn't matter. And then we're going to do the same thing. Fill it and go to the inside. There we go. All right. So I'm going to move this object from there to there. That was the midpoint. So watch again. I'm going to move M, enter, select the object, select the base point, and select the second point that I want to move it to, which is the midpoint of that arch. Okay. So now I can offset that. So I can offset. It's already, well, it's 2 inches. I want 1/8 of an inch to make a 1/4 inch total. So there's 1/8, and there's another 1/8, and I am going to trim that off about right there. Trim, pick that line as the cutting edge, select those things to get cut out. Erase that, TR for trim, select all the cutting edges. Whoops, why didn't it trim? Because there's a gap right there. So how do I get that to extend? Well, the opposite of trim is extend, so I can pull that down and there's extend. So I can select this line to extend to and select those lines to extend. Again, extend is the opposite of trim. So I can extend, command. Now it says select a boundary edge. This is the boundary edge that I want to use. I select it. Then I hit enter to accept that, and now it's asking what do I want to extend. I want to extend this line and I want to extend this line. Now if I trim, TR, enter, and enter again to accept all cutting edges, and then I'm going to trim out this center piece. And there I go. And then I want to put a little loop down here, or a fillet. So I use the fillet command. 2 parallel lines filleted will give me that nice clean loop. And there's my fork. Well, I hope you enjoyed this first lesson on the first project. I'll come back and do the rest later. So have a good day and practice. And I mean practice a lot. Or just play with it. That's kind of like practice. See ya.